November 29th, 1970. Houston Astrodome 18 Heim 500 restless fans. Amid the roar of a sold-out crowd, a single mother pushed through, lifting her crying child toward the stage. What happened next left thousands dead silent, and one little boy in Elvis Presley's arms wept like the world had stopped. Elvis Presley's boots clicked against the polished stage at 8:03 p.m. The Astrodome's 18 Heim 500 spectators erupted, a tide of shouts and camera flashes shimmering against sequin jumpsuits. The air was thick with popcorn, perfume, and the metallic tang of anticipation. Vendors hustled down aisles, calling their wares, while security scanned for disturbances. The set list promised classics: Bridge Over Troubled Water, Polk Salad Annie, but no one anticipated the unscripted drama unfolding near row. Jane Whittaker, a single mother of 5-year-old Tommy, pressed forward through shoulder-to-shoulder fans, his small hands clinging to hers. She had rehearsed this moment for hours in her mind. How to make sure her son was seen, heard, acknowledged. Every flashbulb that popped seemed to spotlight them, a mixture of danger and hope. The crowd's energy oscillated, some gasping at the lights, others swaying to the first chords, but all undercurrents felt secondary to the tiny figure. Jane was determined to lift toward the legendary performer. A shiver of tension rippled through Jane as she caught the first glimpse of Elvis scanning the crowd, his eyes briefly resting on her. The hum of excitement hung like a living thing. Behind her, an elderly fan, George Mendez, chuckled softly, nudging a neighbor, whispering, "Some nights, the universe aligns." The scent of sweat and anticipation mingled in the warm air, pressing against her chest, as Tommy squirmed, sensing both the thrill and the enormity of the moment. Have you ever felt invisible in a crowd, yet determined to be seen? How does desperation shape our boldest choices? Jane lifted Tommy slightly higher, navigating the throng inch by inch. Camera flashes reflected in his wide eyes, and he squealed, a mix of delight and fear. The stage lights caught the sequins of Elvis's jumpsuit, shimmering like a beacon above them. Every step forward was a gamble, every push through the crowd a test of resolve. And then, just as the first strains of Bridge Over Troubled Water floated across the arena, Jane reached the edge of the stage. Tommy's small hand stretched toward Elvis. The boy's fingers trembled in midair, and all eyes seemed to pivot, waiting to see what the legend would do next. Tommy's wail cut through the Astrodome, high-pitched and urgent, rising above the roar of 18 Heim 500 fans. Security spotted Jane immediately, signaling her to step back. The murmurs that followed swelled into a wave, ricocheting off the steel beams and vaulted ceiling. Suddenly, her son's cry became the focal point of the arena, a spotlight not of light but of human urgency. Every head turned, every eye followed. On stage, Elvis paused mid-verse, fingers frozen on the guitar string. The chorus hung unfinished in the air, replaced by a hushed, stunned murmur that swept across the crowd like a tide. Camera lenses pivoted, zooming in on the small, trembling boy and the mother fighting through the crowd. Someone shouted from row 12, "Let them through," a ripple of encouragement spreading like wildfire. The tension between protocol and empathy became tangible. The audience leaned in, as if waiting for fate itself to make a choice. Jane's heart hammered. The child in her arms felt heavier than life itself. Her palms were slick with sweat. Tommy's tiny hands gripped her fingers with desperate hope. The arena went dead silent in an instant as Elvis's gaze locked onto them. Something shifted in that look, a recognition of fear, courage, and the human fragility that even a king could not ignore. When have you seen rules bend for compassion? Could witnessing a single act change the way a crowd or a community behaves? The dome's air crackled. Security tightened their stance, but their eyes betrayed hesitation. The crowd's collective heartbeat seemed audible. A rhythm synced with the mother's steps forward. The instruments, once a steady accompaniment, now felt suspended, waiting for the inevitable intersection of legend and life. Elvis leaned slightly forward, microphone in hand, eyes fixed on the boy whose cry had stopped a performance mid-song. The atmosphere in the Astrodome shifted as the security team fists hovered near radios and earpieces. Eyes scanned the crowd like hawks, while Jane froze mid-step, torn between compliance and urgency. Every heartbeat felt magnified in the cavernous arena, the 18,500 fans collectively holding their breath, sensing that the night had strayed into uncharted territory. What began as a simple concert now carried the weight of human fragility, courage, and legendary expectation. George Mendez, the elderly fan in row 37, leaned forward, shouting encouragement across the aisle. "Go on. Let them through." His voice was swallowed by the dome, but echoed in pockets of the crowd. Whispers spread, spreading empathy like wildfire. The air felt charged, thick with tension. A child's wail against authority, desperation against protocol, humanity against spectacle. Some fans swayed, caught between cheering and concern, feeling each pulse, each tremor of fear and hope. Security officers exchanged uncertain glances. Orders had been clear: maintain order, protect the stage, prevent disruption. Yet the mother and child were so small, so painfully earnest, that hesitation crept into every measured step. Jane's grip on Tommy tightened as she navigated through the pressing bodies, his tears wetting her sleeve. The crowd sensed it, a collective pause, like the world itself inhaling. Every flash from cameras cast light on the impossibility of the moment. A mother trying to reach a legend, a child clinging to hope, a security line confronting the human heart. The music had stopped completely. Guitar strings hung in silence, drums remained unmoved, and the voices of backup singers faded to nothing. The Astrodome, usually roaring with anticipation, was now caught between awe and anxiety. Someone murmured, "This is history," while another fan whispered, "It's bravery, not chaos." The energy shifted from spectacle to intimacy, as if the massive crowd had contracted around Jane and Tommy, protective and waiting. Can a single act of empathy ripple through thousands, changing the energy of a room, or even the course of a performance? Elvis's silhouette remained at the edge of the stage. His gaze, steady and unflinching, scanned the mother and child as if weighing the universe itself. Short bursts of motion, the flick of a hand, a nod, told the crowd that something extraordinary was imminent. The tension between duty and compassion reached a peak. Security officers hesitated. The mother faltered, and Tommy's cry resonated, echoing against steel beams and reverberating through hearts. The fans, sensing the monumental choice, leaned closer to the action. Hands were held, breath caught, eyes wide. The dome went dead silent, for the briefest fraction of a second, as if the world had paused to witness the intersection of legend and humanity. The pattern breaker line hung in the air. A child's cries stopped a performance mid-song. Every spectator felt it, a visceral reminder that rules and protocol could bend in the presence of courage and innocence. Then, almost imperceptibly, Elvis lifted his hand. A hush swept through the arena, heavier than any cheer, louder than any applause. Security's rigid posture softened, officers stepping back, granting space where moments ago there was none. The tension that had thickened like fog now began to thin, but only margin. Every eye tracked the motion, every mind waited, and the child's small hand stretched toward the stage once more. In that frozen instant, the Astrodome seemed to inhale collectively, as Elvis's hand hovered, the decision poised to ripple through thousands of hearts. Elvis stepped down from the stage with cinematic precision. The arena held in suspended silence. Every footfall echoed like a drumbeat through the Astrodome, and the crowd's roar vanished, as if swallowed by the enormity of the moment. Jane lifted Tommy higher, trembling, his tiny fingers brushing against the sequins of Elvis's jumpsuit. The air was thick with anticipation, electric and fragile. Cameras swiveled, capturing every flicker of motion, every beat of human connection unfolding before it. The king's arms wrapped around the child with natural ease, enveloping him in warmth. Tommy buried his face in Elvis's chest, tears soaking the sequins, and glinting under the stage lights. Short bursts of observation captured the rhythm of the moment. He held him. Tommy gasped. The dome exhaled. Security officers, previously rigid and stern, relaxed. Even the band paused mid-note, as if recognizing that no melody could outshine the empathy on stage. The crowd remained dead silent for a heartbeat, and then soft murmurs began, an almost imperceptible ripple of awe. Fans craned their necks, leaning toward the stage, whispers of admiration and surprise threading through the rows. Someone muttered, "In front of 1,800 people, a moment of pure human connection rewrote the rules of the night." It was the first mid-hook, planting itself firmly in the hearts of everyone present. Camera flashes punctuated the scene, capturing both shock and reverence. Jane's knees trembled as she steadied herself, Tommy's small body shaking in relief and wonder. Elvis's gaze met hers briefly, a silent acknowledgement of courage and trust. His voice, when it came, was soft, carrying effortlessly across the arena. "It's all right, little man. I've got you." The simplicity of the words, delivered amid a sea of thousands, amplified the human weight of the moment. Fans in the upper tiers whispered, clutched hands, and some wept openly, feeling the rare intersection of celebrity and unfiltered compassion. Short, punchy sentences punctuated the drama, capturing rhythm and heartbeat. "He lifted him." Tommy gasped. The arena exhaled. Every member of the crowd felt the tension dissolve. What had been fear and hesitation now transformed into collective wonder. George Mendez in row 37 let out a quiet, "See, this is why we come," a sentiment echoed silently by thousands. The instruments, gently resumed, carried a softer, more contemplative melody, emphasizing the warmth of connection rather than the spectacle. Have you ever witnessed someone step outside expectation to choose empathy over protocol? How did it change your perception of courage? Bootleg cameras captured the moment from multiple angles: a mother's sacrifice, a child's innocence, and a legend's choice, converging into something that could not be erased by time. Security, once tense and immovable, relaxed fully, allowing the mother and child to exist unimpeded within the limelight. Fans leaned forward, craning to see every nuance, every expression, understanding in real time that they were witnessing a singular event that would ripple across decades of fandom. Tommy whispered something inaudible into Elvis's ear, and the subtle nod from the singer hinted at a private understanding, a secret shared across the stage and crowd that left hearts suspended in awe. The Astrodome erupted, not with the typical fanfare of a hit song, but with a collective expression of wonder and love. Applause swelled organically, rising in waves from every section, rolling over 18,500 people, who felt more like participants in a shared story than mere spectators. Fans passed small toys, handwritten notes, and flowers forward, weaving an invisible bridge of kindness toward Jane and Tommy. Every gesture seemed amplified by the enormity of the arena. Generosity became its own performance, more poignant than any melody. Jane steadied herself, overwhelmed by the flood of support. Tommy clutched a soft toy, handed by a fan in row 14. His tears now mingled with wonder, rather than fear. George Mendez waved a makeshift sign from row 37. Compassion wins. Its simple message echoing across the stand. The crowd cheered, not just for Elvis, but for the human capacity to bend rules, to recognize courage, and to act. Cameras and bootleggers documented every moment, framing the night as more than a concert. It was an instance of shared humanity captured in real time. Elvis resumed the setlist, now soft and contemplative. The music underscored the transformation from tension to empathy, from protocol to connection. Notes floated through the arena, but they were secondary to the quiet acts of the audience. Hands lifted, smiles shared, murmurs of encouragement, drifting like gentle wind. Each spectator became an actor in the story, a co-creator of a memory that would endure far longer than any single performance. How does witnessing kindness transform your perception of strangers? Can a single act of courage inspire collective empathy in ways you might never anticipate? The dome, once brimming with anticipation for songs alone, now vibrated with purpose. A young girl in the back clutched her mother's hand, eyes wide, learning that witnessing compassion could be as electrifying as witnessing fame. An elderly couple quietly nodded, holding each other as if confirming that acts of humanity transcend generations. In every row, people leaned forward, craning to witness what seemed impossible. A performer, a mother, a child, and a crowd of 18 camera flashes flickered intermittently, capturing the overflow of emotion, each frame a testament to the unexpected transformation. The audience had become a community, a living organism, breathing in unison, carrying forward the weight and warmth of the moment. In this space, applause became gentle, cheers became whispers of awe, a child's sob turned into a shared sigh of relief. The ripple effect of empathy was undeniable, carried from stage to top tier, from row to row, and from heart to heart. The roar returned, but it carried awe, not impatience. The cheers were tempered by understanding, amplified by the choice to witness rather than interrupt, to lift rather than condemn. Jane smiled down at Tommy, realizing that the night had changed far more than her son. It had shifted the collective spirit of everyone present. The story of that night quickly became legend. Headlines in the Houston Chronicle proclaimed, "Elvis and the Child Who Stopped a Dome." Bootleg recordings circulated, capturing the hush that fell over 18 tears, 500 fans, the pause in music, and the embrace that rewrote the evening. Fan clubs displayed plaques recounting the event. Letters to Elvis's foundation referenced the moment, and decades later, Houston reunions would honor the night. As more than a concert, it was proof that empathy could reach the stage, the crowd, and the heart of a nation simultaneously. Tommy Whitaker, the boy cradled in Elvis's arms, grew up with sequins and soft strings etched into memory. Every photograph, every blurred flash, every whispered story became a touchstone for what it felt like to be seen, acknowledged, and held by someone legend. Jane Whitaker recounted the story countless times, each telling imbued with awe and a subtle private gratitude. It was not fame alone that defined the evening. It was the collision of courage, innocence, and human connection in a place designed for spectacle. Fans who were present remembered it in vivid detail. George Mendez, the elderly supporter from row 37, told local news decades later, "I've seen hundreds of concerts, but that night, it changed everything. It wasn't just music, it was humanity." Across Houston, letters and small gifts arrived at fan clubs, referencing the night that compassion ruled over protocol, reminding everyone that even a fleeting moment of kindness can ripple outward to influence thousands. The Astrodome itself became symbolic, a silent witness to an unprecedented event. Photographs of the stage, the sequins, the tiny hands of Tommy reaching upward, were displayed in archives and private collections. Charities and foundations often cited the story as inspiration for programs that valued audience engagement and personal connection over mere performance. What had started as a mother's simple desire for her child to be seen became a story repeated across generations, proof that celebrity, courage, and compassion could converge in ways that resonated long after the applause faded. What small act could you do today that becomes a story for tomorrow? Could one choice ripple farther than you imagine? The legend persisted, not as rumor, but as a testament to the potential within each human encounter. News clippings, fan memorabilia, and letters acted as tangible receipts of a night when thousands collectively bore witness to compassion. Even casual visitors to Houston would hear whispers of the event, and in reunion gatherings, fans leaned toward each other to share memories of the hush, the embrace, and the collective awe. It was a reminder that even in a space built for entertainment, the quiet, extraordinary acts of empathy could echo indefinitely. Somewhere in the quiet corners of the Astrodome, a whisper lingered. Some nights, legends don't just sing, they hold. The lights dimmed, but the memory of that night glowed brighter than any spotlight. The Astrodome had borne witness to more than a performance. It had watched courage, empathy, and innocence converge. Jane Whittaker's bravery in lifting Tommy toward the stage, and Elvis Presley's unexpected embrace, transformed a moment of potential chaos into a testament of humanity. Fans left the arena, not only with echoes of music, but with the profound understanding that compassion surpasses protocol, fame, and fear. The ripple effect continued long after the final notes faded. Stories of that night circulated in homes, schools, and reunion halls. Letters to fan clubs and Elvis's foundation emphasized a truth the audience had felt firsthand. A single act of kindness can redefine expectations, inspire community, and embed itself in legend. The child who cried, the mother who persisted, and the performer who responded created a narrative far stronger than any song or spotlight. How often do we allow fame or protocol to overshadow compassion? Could one act of courage shift the hearts of thousands? The Astrodome, the stage, the sequins, and the microphones became symbolic artifacts, markers of a moment when empathy claimed the spotlight. The narrative of that night reminds us that even in the midst of spectacle, human connection is what endures. Legends are not only measured by the songs they sing, but by the hearts they touch. Compassion, above all, is timeless, capable of changing a child, a mother, a performer, and a stadium full of witnesses forever. The story closes softly, yet the echo remains. Sometimes the greatest performances happen off-script, in the quiet space where courage meets empathy. Share this story of courage and connection with someone who needs a reminder. Even the smallest act, lifting a child, holding a hand, stepping beyond protocol, can transform a moment into a legend. Who could you lift today, and whose heart could you